Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna continue one of our experiments. We're gonna crush up turquoise and cast it into resin and try to make a ring out of it. And the question that we always have is this gonna look good? And so stick around and find out. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. We've got a new design for you and I'm really excited about it because it's actually based on a design that we did a couple months ago called the Opal Dust Ring. However, I'm putting my own flair on this. I really like turquoise. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take turquoise, gold flake, and aqua glow and put it together to make a new material, and then we're gonna make a ring out of it. So let's get started. So the first step is I have to take this turquoise chunk and I have to break it down into basically dust. And this is gonna take some time. So to start, I'm gonna start by breaking down the big chunks into smaller chunks with a hammer. And I'm doing it on a steel block with a steel retaining ring. This probably isn't the best method. Normally I use a roll of tape, like one of those big duct tape things, but that doesn't look as good in the video. So I'm gonna use this and just have to collect some of the chunks. So the next step is I'm gonna take these small little chunks and I'm gonna break them down even smaller, and we're gonna sift them to get the really, really fine pieces of turquoise out that can be cast into the resin. It's super important that we're using uniform sized turquoise, because if you have big chunks and little chunks mixed in, the big chunks will sink to the bottom and the little chunks will sit on top. And so it's very, very important that we go through the sifting process to make sure that we have uniform sized chunks going into the resin. All right, so we're gonna jump ahead one step real quick. We're gonna put some mold release into the molds so that it can dry while we're mixing up our epoxy and pouring in the turquoise dust. And I'm gonna mix up some epoxy. We have Astrotech epoxy, part A and B. It's a 1-to-1 ratio epoxy. We're gonna mix this up and get it ready for the turquoise. So we're adding the turquoise and mixing it into the epoxy. I'm gonna do this little by little to make sure we get the right consistency. So a little bit of turquoise, mix, 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 a little bit of turquoise, mix, mix, mix. We're trying to get this to be like a thick paste. That way we don't have too much clear resin. We have a nice saturation of turquoise, and then we can start moving into adding in some other stuff like gold flake and glow powder. So we've got the right consistency. I'm really happy with this. We're gonna add some gold flake into this. And the gold flake in turquoise is gonna have a really beautiful appearance, because in nature, a lot of times you'll find turquoise with different vein structures in it. And one of my favorites is when you find turquoise that has a nice gold vein structure. And so that's kind of what we're going for. All right, we've got it all mixed up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take it over to a vacuum chamber and we're gonna vacuum out the air bubbles. And so the process here is to put this in the vacuum chamber, pull a vacuum and watch it rise. And we're gonna slowly pull the vacuum and then let out the vacuum, or let in the atmosphere. And you're gonna see the epoxy go up and down, up and down. And we're doing this because it's so thick, we have to make sure that we're getting the air bubbles up and moving them up and down and getting them to come out of the epoxy. The next step is we're gonna take this over and put it in the pressure pot, because there's still gonna be micro bubbles in there and we wanna make sure to pop them. So we're gonna force them popped with a pressure pot. So while we're making the other ring, we had a bunch of turquoise dust in the bottom of the sifter, and we're gonna actually try and make another ring with this right now to compare and contrast with our other ring. So we're gonna mix this up right now, and we'll have 2 rings at the end of this to show you. So I'm mixing up some more Astrotech epoxy right now and getting that all mixed thoroughly before we add in our dust. Now I'm adding in the turquoise dust. Because it's thinner, I'm gonna probably go a little more heavy with adding in the dust and trying to really saturate it even further. And as you can see, the more we're getting there, the better it's looking in terms of just looking like a uniform turquoise epoxy. We're almost using just turquoise powder to pigment the epoxy to look like turquoise. All right, so of course, if anybody knows me, knows I have to make this thing glow. And so I'm gonna add some Aqua glow powder to it. And the Aqua glow powder looks almost exactly the same as turquoise. It has almost the same color. And so the overall result should look like a turquoise ring during the day and then also turquoise when it's glowing. It should be really beautiful. So we're gonna go through the whole same process with the pressure pot and vacuum chamber and then pull out the mold at the end.
"24 hours later."
We waited 24 hours and then we popped these rods out of the molds and here they are. They came out really nice. Now the real question is making a ring out of them. So we're gonna get into the making process and the shaping process. So let's dive right into that. So we're gonna take it over to our lapidary saw real quick. We're gonna cut it in half and just kind of get an idea of what the inside of this looks like. And also to make it a little easier to cut down on the lathe so we're not just using this super long rod stock. And off to the lathe we go. So we're gonna put this into the jaws right now and we're gonna start getting the tailstock set up because we're gonna bore out the inside of the rod that we just made. Now that we've cut out the inside, we are gonna add on the boring bar and we're gonna size the inside to the inner diameter of the ring that we're gonna be making. So slowly but surely, we're gonna cut and cut and cut. Since we have some stone in there, we actually wanna use a little bit of water while we're cutting and do nice light passes. We don't want to create any voids by popping stones out. We wanna make sure that this process is done really smoothly and nicely. Now that the inside is done, we are gonna move on to the outside. We gotta shave that down a little bit, otherwise we're gonna end up with a ginormously thick ring and that is not gonna be comfortable for anybody. So slowly but surely, we're just gonna shave off a little by little on the outside until we have the right outer diameter. All right, we got it all sized up inside and outside, and now the next step is to do the handwork. So I have to cut it off of this rod stock, and I'm gonna just use Dremel with a little cutoff wheel and cut it off. And the next step is to actually clean it up. So we're gonna put some shape onto this. We're gonna put a bevel with a Dremel and a sanding drum, and then I'm gonna hand clean it up. So it's kind of like a rounded bevel when it's all said and done. I'm trying to be as careful as I can not to take the chamfer off. I do like the chamfer a lot. There's gonna be some that's gonna get rounded off no matter what, just because of the sanding process. But overall, I'm gonna try and maintain that shape as much as possible. The next part is we're gonna polish until our hands hurt. Polish, polish, polish. We're gonna use 3 different types of polish on this, getting it to a nice gloss finish. There's our first sneak peek. There's the outside done. It should look even better once we got the inside all cleaned up because light will pass through just a little bit. So let's get to work on the inside. So we're gonna put it on the jaws, do a little chamfering, and then I'm gonna do some light sanding and polishing on the inside here. When I'm sanding the inside of the ring, I'm just putting light pressure and actually letting the sandpaper do the work for me. I'm spinning it a little slower and using some water, just letting this thing sand nice and smooth, going up the grits until we get to a polish. Now, before I reveal the secret and show you the finished ring, we're gonna go through and make the dust version, and we're gonna speed through that process right now. and here is the finished result. All right, so we weren't fully 100% happy with our first 2 experiments. And like anything, this is sometimes trial and error. You're trying to get it right. This is something that's brand new concept. And, you know, on some we put too big of turquoise stones, some we put too much glow, sometimes we put too much gold. And we just wanted to get the right amount of concentration of each of these materials. And so we finally got it after 5 tries. This is our final go. And here is the finished results. Look at these rings. These are absolutely incredible. And look at that glow shot. This thing looks amazing. These are available right now on our website. The link is in the descriptions. That's the video. Thanks for watching. Until next time.